Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, can you hear me okay? Because I know there's a bit of a loud noise from the aircon. It's probably best if you can't, but I'll just check anyway. Huh? That's alright. I need more fans. It wasn't even lined up, that gag. Thank you very much for coming, everyone. Digital Nomads of Las Palmas. My name is Jim Hughes, also known as the Untamed Entrepreneur. And before I start, hands up if you already have a business. Any of you who runs a small business, could just be you as a solopreneur. Excellent. Anybody else who's in the throes of setting up their own business or has aspirations of being an entrepreneur? Excellent. It's a good qualified audience for me. What I'm going to talk to you about today is something that's very close to me and my heart, and something I'm very passionate about, and that is designing your perfect business. As with a lot of these things, it started with a story. 3 years ago, I was living in Australia. The alarm sounded for the 10th time that morning. I hit snooze again. Any excitement or anticipation I had for getting to my job had gone. I couldn't think of one single reason why I really wanted to get out of bed and get to work. It was 7:30 and my girlfriend, now fiance at the time, who can't be here unfortunately, was leaving for her job and I was still in bed. A year prior, I'd usually been in the office for an hour and a half by the time she got out. That was the difference in the transition between me now, in this current state, and me a year ago when I was excited and full of energy. Hands up who's been in that situation where you're snoozing the alarm and you can't be asked to go to work because you don't really care that much about what you're doing. Okay, what effect does that have on you? Does that affect your energy levels? Excellent. Does it affect your excitement levels? Does it affect your self-worth? Excellent. Well, I was feeling all of those things. So I snoozed around, eventually I got to work, and that was the defining moment when I said, right, enough of this shit. Something needs to change. I'm not going to become one of my colleagues embittered by what they're doing and on a path to mediocrity and a life of just being average and settling for good enough. So, what did I do? I decided to dedicate the next 18 months of my life to figuring out what I was good at, figuring out what inspired me. I knew I wanted to do my own thing, but if I was going to do it, I was going to do it right, and it was going to be designed around me. So I threw myself all into it. I spent 1,300 hours, and I did actually calculate this, I know. That's 54 days of my time digging into what my identity was, my purpose, my mission, my passion, all of those things. I spent $25,000, ladies and gentlemen, that is not an exaggeration, on this. Traveling the world, talking to people who were where I already was, who were on the same journey as me, who were at the same stage as me, but had the same values and the same ambitions. And a lot of this, I flew from Australia to Whistler. That takes about a week, ladies and gentlemen, for a 4-day seminar on business and trying to uncover your passions. I flew to Bali for a 3-day training seminar on trying to uncover my identity, trying to figure out what I was best at and what I was destined to do. So I went through the ringer lots of times. I also did a bit of this. You can see there's a podcast set up there. There's audiobooks, there's Skype, and there's work. It was note-taking, it was finishing my day job, it was coming home, it was making lists, it was brainstorming, it was calling people all over the world, my whole network. Anyone who I knew was happy and inspired by what they were doing, I was trying to find them and say, right, how did you figure it out? How did you get to that point of clarity and that point of alignment? 27 audiobooks I listened to in the first 12 months of my journey, and 100 hours of podcasts. And now I do this. And this, obviously, and a bit of that. That was taken in Mexico earlier this year actually. So the big question, if I was to do it all again, to go from that point of mediocrity, of being disappointed and dissatisfied and unpassionate about what I was doing, to now, would I do the same things again? Would I go through the same process? The answer is no. I would do the same ingredients, I would take the same things I did, but I would do them in a lot more efficient, cost-effective and time-effective manner. And that is what inspires me now. I want to take people like you, ladies and gentlemen, the budding entrepreneurs, the newly started entrepreneurs, to a point of clarity, because having a business is one thing, having a job that you like is one thing, having a business that you love and that inspires you on a daily basis is a whole nother thing. And that's the point I want to get you guys to. Check out this fancy little graphic. So I boiled my whole 18 months down. I boiled the $25,000. I boiled the hundreds of hours of podcasts, the 27 audiobooks down into 3 steps. Step 1, establish your identity. Look at that spinny thing as well. Step 2, uncover your mission. or your why, or your purpose, however you want to label it. And step 3, decide and define who your perfect customer is. And that is the topic of this talk, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to talk you through those steps, and I'm going to give you some actionable tips that you can take away. It's not a prescriptive do this, do this, do this. It's a case of giving you the tools so you can apply them from here on in for the rest of your life as your values change, as your passions change, as your objectives change. Okay, step 1. Firstly, does anyone recognize where that photo is taken? Not many local. Come on, shout out, anyone? Excellent, thank you. Alberto, thank you for taking us there, by the way. He's a local tour guide, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. A quote from Lao Tzu: "He who knows others is wise, he who knows himself is enlightened." It is the first step on my path for a reason. It is the foundation of everything. If you're going to do something, it has to be aligned with you. And if it's going to be aligned with you, you have to start by knowing who you are, what gets you in a flow state, what you're passionate about, and what you love doing. And I break it down into these key points. So, firstly, has anyone heard of the term flow states? Anybody? So for those of you who don't know, for the uninitiated, a flow state is when you're engaged in an activity. You love to do it, you're stimulated, you're challenged, not too much to the point of frustration. You've got your head down and time flies by. Crucially, you're inspired by it and you've got more energy at the end of the task than when you begun. Has anybody been in a situation like that, whether it's a social life, in work, where they've got more energy after completing something than when they started? Anybody? Yeah, a couple, excellent. Flow states are the key of all of this. They provide so much data. Within a flow state, you can tell what situation you're in, who you were with at the time, what role you were performing, what the impact of that work was, what your environment was. Were you outdoors? Were you in an office? Were you speaking on stage? Were you behind the scenes, away from prying eyes? If you can dig into what got you into a flow state in the first place, you can break it down into its component parts, then you can start to work out how you can design those parts into another situation that's going to take you further down into the business path. Secondly is understanding your human needs. There are 6 human needs according to Tony Robbins. You've got uncertainty, certainty, connection, growth, significance, and contribution. If you dig into those, if you can understand, everybody is motivated by them on some level, but if you can understand which ones trigger you most of all, then that's going to be a huge basis of where it is and figuring out where it is you want to go. So for me, I'm driven by growth, hence why I spent $25,000 trying to grow myself. I'm driven by significance, hence why I'm slightly nervous but still happy to chat to you guys in front of a stage. And I'm also driven by the feeling of variety, hence why I live around the world and I'm happy to live anywhere, not knowing where my next paycheck's coming from or where my next house may be. So that's your human needs. Another huge thing is reframing your perceived weaknesses. So something I did, I used to manage a company in Australia and I used to beat myself up on a regular basis, not literally, that wouldn't work, for not liking spreadsheets, for not enjoying reviewing contracts, for not enjoying looking at the details of the company. I was better at starting things than I was at finishing them. I enjoyed high-level chats. I was better at talking than I was doing. And for a long time, I beat myself up for it. I thought, does that make me a crap manager because I don't like doing all of those things? It was only when I really started to dig into what made me tick that I realized what was a perceived weakness is actually my biggest strength. So, yes, I may be crap at finishing things and I don't like the detail, but I'm the best at starting things and I see the bigger picture better than most people. I annoy people by being too excited in certain situations. Put me in a different situation and I energize people, put me in the right situation. So it's understanding what those are. Taking the perceived weaknesses, they can often be your biggest strength. And I'm sure lots of you have been through that path. You may give yourself a hard time for being introverted. In actual fact, people like me need introverts in their lives, in their business. People who are introverted need extroverts to do the promotion and the sale. So one person's strength is another person's weakness. And it's about finding what your flow states are and teaming with other people who can leverage their flow states so you're adding value more often and they're adding value more often. But that all comes from self-awareness in the first place. Step 2. As Mark Twain said, the 2 most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you found out why. I know it's very much a cliched millennial question this, what's my purpose? You get people who come out of the womb wondering what their purpose in life is and giving themselves a hard time because they haven't figured it out yet. If you can figure out your purpose, if you can understand what mission you're on, what your end objective in life is, what your North Star is, that's going to give you a huge amount of clarity. It's going to inspire you. If you're going to start your own business, which most of you in this room will or already have, you're going to need that inspiration. Most of you will know. Who thinks business is fucking hard? Anyone? Excellent. Who wakes up sometimes and thinks, right, this is a complete shit show and I need to be inspired by what I'm doing. If I'm not inspired by what I'm doing, this just feels like work. Do you know anybody who starts a business and then 2 months later they realise it's not as easy as they thought, so they start another business? 2 months later they realise that was harder than they thought, so they start another business. Those are the people who are not defined and haven't got a clear mission at heart. Those are the people who are setting up a business for the wrong reasons. They're setting up a business for the lifestyle and for the fact it can make them money. The problem with that is, as soon as you encounter difficulties, you will just switch to something else that can also provide those things, that can also bring money and provides a lifestyle. The trouble is, it's so damn difficult, ladies and gentlemen, that you need to have that inspiration behind you. And the difference is between inspiration and motivation. Motivation requires energy. I have to motivate myself to do exercise and go to the gym because I understand the benefits of it. It makes me feel good, it makes me in shape, it makes me live longer. But I'm not inspired to do it like some people. You'll know some people who can't go a day without doing fitness. They are inspired by it. I am motivated to do it. It takes energy to do that. I am inspired by what I do on a daily basis. That provides energy. There's the difference. One is a net gain in energy and one is a net loss. So if you ever feel like you're in a situation where you have to motivate yourself to do your work, to get your ass out of bed in the morning, that's a clue that you may not be on the right path. When I was setting up this business, or when I was on my journey to self-discovery, there was a lot of ideas I had. I started looking into them, and then I realized they were too much like hard work. That was a big red flag to tell me that I wasn't inspired by what I was doing. Now I get obstacles, I get kicks in the balls, I get slaps around the face all the time, but I know I have that North Star, that mission. And my mission is to help people align with their purpose, with their passions, and with their potential so they can design a life around their business and be more fulfilled. That is my mission. I'm very clear on it and I'm inspired by it. And that is the point I want to get you guys to, ladies and gentlemen. So that's from an internal point of view. From an external point of view, as Simon Sinek said, the expert in this topic, he says people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. If you have a clear mission in your heart, and then if you can communicate that with potential customers or existing customers, that makes the difference between a sale and a non-sale. If somebody knows that you are inspired by what you do and you're inspired to serve them, they know that they're going to get the best value. They know that you're going to go through the hard times and go with them. That's the essential part. So if you can discover that mission, you're going to naturally be effusive about that mission and you're going to communicate it clearly and you're going to excite your customers. Same thing, if you have a meeting and you feel like you're trying to... Who's been in a sales role and had to sell something they didn't give a shit about? Anybody? Yeah, same. I was selling electrical engineering services for 3 years. I still don't even know what it is. I managed the business and it was boring and I motivated myself to go to work. Once my human needs of significance and growth had been met, I got bored and I moved on and I found something I was inspired by. And that is absolutely crucial. And one thing I help people do is discover how you can find your purpose. It's all very well saying I want to find it. How the hell do you do that? I can't go into too much detail now because we haven't got the time. But a tip, a purpose or a mission is so often linked to a life event that you've been through. Whether it was a painful life event that you want to help others avoid, whether it was a major lesson you learned that you want to share with others. So mine, I spent $25,000, 1,100 hours of my time figuring out my own shit. I don't want to see other people go through that same inefficient, time-consuming, questioning process. I'm inspired to help other people do the same. Some people are inspired to help military veterans because they've come out and they've seen how difficult it is. Some people are inspired to help people lose 100 pounds because they've done it, they've been through it, and they can put themselves in their shoes. What life event have you been through? What have you learned? What can you connect to? What significant events throughout your life can you tap into and uncover that? A lot of the time it's not easy to find your mission, so don't give yourself a hard time if it doesn't come tapping you on the head. Most people have to tap away at it. They gnaw away at it, they dig around it, they try things, they uncover things. That's what I had to do, and that's where I suggest you start. And step 3, don't find customers for your products, find products for your customers. Marketing genius Seth Godin said that. Most people set up a business, they don't consider who they are, who they're selling to, who they're inspired to serve. How many people have said, when you ask them, who's your market, who's your target market, they go, oh, anybody could benefit from this. You hear it all the time. And that is the crucial step. And this is before we've even figured out what your business may look like, ladies and gentlemen. This is the foundational stuff. If you can tap into number 2, your mission, uncover that mission, dig into where you were in your life at that point, what lessons you learned, who was around you, what kind of person you were, who helped you, you can then maybe start looking into who you're going to be inspired to serve. Single mums are a lot more inspired to serve other single mums. They resonate with them, they communicate with them on a deeper level. I can sell my little heart out to a single mum, she'd believe it, that's cool, but she knows full well no matter how much I talked, I haven't been through what she's been through. I can't put myself on a deeper level with her. And it all comes down to having resonance with who you're serving and being inspired to serve them. Exactly the same. Inspiration comes back every time. You've got to wake up in the morning when the business isn't going as well as you'd hoped. You remember what your mission is, you remember your values, you remember what you're best at, you remember what gets you in your flow state, and you remember who your perfect customer is, and you think, this is what I'm here to do, I'm inspired to serve them, and this little bump in the road is nothing. I'm going to be adding value to them, and I'm inspired to do it on a daily basis. Again, that's the internal stuff. The external stuff, when you meet with a potential customer, and you can look them in the eye, and you say, look, I'm going to help you design your perfect business, because I've been there, I've done it, it was a pain in the arse, and there's a better way of doing it, I promise. People are going to know that I know what I'm talking about because I've been there, I've done it. If I try and sell them a product to help them become a better single mum, not going to have the same effect. So externally, there's a connection there, there's that bond, and there's no disconnect. A lot of people come up with an amazing product, they don't really care about the end user, and that creates a disconnect, which becomes very obvious in the long run. And those 3, ladies and gentlemen, are my 3 foundation steps. Now, any of my clients, we actually go on to figuring out step 4 and 5, which is what the business looks like, and then how it can be designed in the front end, in the back end, how it can be simple, and how it can be aligned with all of those things. But those 3 things are my foundation steps. If you figure that stuff out, basically we've gone from an aperture of this many possibilities. So you sit down, right, what business do I want to start? I could do affiliate marketing. I could do e-commerce, I could do consulting, I could do software development. You've got an aperture this wide. With no self-awareness, the aperture's this wide. If you figure that out, you figure what puts you in your flow state, that gets rid of a shitload of opportunities that you may have wasted your time pursuing. You figure out what you're inspired to do, what your mission is, that narrows that aperture even thinner. And then you figure out your perfect customer, you're left with an aperture of this wide, this many opportunities that you can focus on. Trial and error is still crucial. You're not going to figure this stuff out overnight. You're not going to land in a job or a company or a business that you're perfectly inspired by and is aligned in every single way. It's iterative, but you're doing so from a point, you're trialing and erroring, it's not even a phrase, but you're doing it from a point of consciousness, saying, okay, this is what inspires me, this is what puts me on my flow state, this is who I'm inspired to serve. And you get there along the way, you know which direction you're heading in, and you know who you want to add value to, and that is the difference, okay? And so I kind of ramble through all that. I hope I added some value to you guys, and there's probably, well, I hope there's a few questions out there, so I would love to answer any questions you may have about any of the points I made. Good start. And I'll leave you with a quote from Richard Branson, my entrepreneur hero, who says, "The brave may not live forever, but the cautious do not live at all." So don't leave, whether it's this room, this island, the next 5 years, with all of these sort of desires and ambitions and goals to set up a business or to make that perfect business. Don't leave them sitting inside. That's not going to achieve anything. You're never going to know unless you actually try. So that's the message I will leave you on. I'll be kicking around for a little while after that, and I will also be running a workshop for anybody who's interested. It'll be a couple of hours. It'll probably be run from the roof or from Restation, depending. So if anyone wants to walk through those steps and get clarity on their identity, on their mission, and on who they want to serve, then I'll be there for that. So if you want to come and sign up for that or ask me questions about that, then I'll be sitting around. Thank you very much.